Drive-By Movies coming at you with a special quarantine episode of
Fresh Releases.
My name is James.
My name's Blaze.
And this week we are checking out The Hunt.
War is war.
You have no idea what you're up against.
This time, they picked the wrong woman.
Game of survival.
They're gonna rip you to pieces.
We'll see.
This is a wild game of survival.
This is a really interesting movie that came out a couple weeks ago in theaters, and the entire world is kind of just trying to get used to what's going on, and this movie was just out of nowhere, just released on video on demand alongside like The Invisible Man and a few other movies as well. I know Disney and Pixar recently released Onward, but judging from the movies we normally review, we thought like The Hunt would be a fun movie to check out. This is a weird episode for us. It stars a bunch of actors that I was like stoked to see, but don't last too long. But Blaze, what did you think of The Hunt?
I think that's the easy way to put it. This movie is highly talked about. Everyone just had, things to say about it, and no one had seen it. Back last August, this was originally supposed to be released. 2 mass shootings sadly happened, and they put this on the shelf. Trump pointed a lot of fingers that this movie was the reason for, a lot of what was going on in the country at the time, and it got
claimed
shelved.
It was dangerous too.
Yeah, claimed the movie was actually highly dangerous. It is a political movie, I guess. Now that we've seen it, I can say like safely it is a political movie. But it then, finally got its release date, and I think maybe this is the reason for COVID-19. Let's be honest here.
Interesting take, yeah. I find it also funny that like Trump said that it was like a dangerous movie and like didn't necessarily do the research on it. I remember the director saying like, I wish they would see it because then they'd see that it's like very hardcore joke. And I had no idea that it was going to be about liberals essentially hunting down like right-wing activists or people who had like conspiracy theories against like leftist societies and everything. And I feel like Trump, if he knew more about it, would actually think this movie's hilarious and like actually think that like, oh, this is actually kind of true and stuff. Yeah.
He's supposed to be a conspiracy theorist, right? Like a lot of people believe that he is slightly a conspiracy theorist. Trump, I'm speaking of.
Mm-hmm.
So, maybe he'd like the movie. I don't know if the movie's like, it does kind of like have a lot like that it's tied to that happened in reality. I think the whole thing is kind of centered around that Pizzagate moment and like politics and the news and like that. Those are these conspiracy theorists that showed up to a pizza place because they thought that was like the place had an underground layer that liberals would basically sodomize people at. So The Hunt is essentially trying to say that like these text messages leak and people are like, oh, they're talking about the actual hunt where they're going to hunt a bunch of deplorables or conservatives, all these liberal elites. Yeah. And then the movie just, that's kind of the plot is like, then the hunt actually happens after it was leaked that it was people talking about it. But what did you think about the comedy in the movie? Because it is trying to be a comedy and like, it kind of reminds me of like The Daily Show in a way. Were you a fan of that? What'd you feel about that?
I thought that the movie was fun at the point where it was introducing all the original people who first landed, but once we start realizing that all of them are pretty much expendable and then we get its key main characters, that's when the movie kind of started falling apart for me, just because I thought the main character within the movie wasn't that entertaining enough to watch. She was definitely a badass, I'd say, but she didn't have like the charisma I felt like of the Aaron character from You're Next, where like I felt like that's what they were trying to accomplish with her character essentially. But like some of the more fun characters like Ike Barinholtz, sorry for spoilers, but just like he dies so fast in the movie where I was just like, oh, this guy was entertaining. Like, yeah, technically they might not be likable people. There's just not enough likable characters, I felt like. And then when Hilary Swank kind of gets brought in, like, it's a funny joke and a funny concept overall, and it's a fun movie, but it's just not enough for me to like recommend it, I'd say, necessarily, just because it felt like almost pointless. Like, oh, that's the joke. Like, they're only having it just because they push them to have it. But I'm just like, all right, that's like funny, but I think it sounded funnier in the writing process, but like they didn't really nail it in terms of just like executing like what they were trying to make the joke out of, I'd say.
Yeah. I don't really mind like politics or talking about it or any of that, but it's really just kind of gets grating sometimes, especially in this day and age. It just, there's really little that you could kind of do for it, at least that's what I feel like. I'm not saying like don't vote. I'm not saying that, so don't take this out of context. It's just this movie just felt so ham-fisted, pointless. It was so like mundane, like especially an interesting concept. All right, you're basically taking Battle Royale and like you mentioned, you blow the concept within the first 10 to 15 minutes. Everyone essentially dies. So it's like that plot that you're going to see the movie for isn't even really the plot of the movie. It's just like one person versus everyone, essentially. I don't know if that's has to do with the re-edits, but yeah, it didn't make sense that literally all the characters, or the majority of the characters, you know, are taken out in that first. There's supposed to be 12 people in the hunt, and it like I think at least like 6 to 8 of them fall in the first, 5 minutes of the hunt.
Right, I was surprised that they got Emma Roberts for that role. Like, does she even have a line in the movie? Like, maybe she had one line, but just
no,
like...
she had... Yeah. I don't know. For me, it's not really the fact that just the plot was thrown away immediately. It was really just the comedy or lack thereof was just, like, constantly, like, saying these, like, silly things you hear in the news. Like, even the word deplorable is just, like, I don't know, everything about it is just like not, maybe it's just this virus right now that's spreading across America, but this is just everything I did not want to see. This is like the worst movie for quarantine. Like I'd rather have watched Contagion, honestly. I honestly hated this movie. I hate to be that guy, but...
Yeah, I mean, I can totally see where you're coming from. Like, I definitely get the vibe that like, this movie isn't for everyone. I don't think that it's really an offensive movie by any means. I think if everyone gives it a shot, that they'll be like, oh yeah, it's very much done for comedic purposes, essentially. But does it land? And that's where I said, like, oh, it's a fun movie, it's a fun watch, but I can see why there's not really like, oh, I'm going to love this movie or I'm going to hate it. It's just like, oh, you're going to hate it, or you're going to be like, it's just, like, that's what sucks about it overall. It's just a very, I'd say it's just an expendable movie overall. Like, all the characters are expendable. Oh, what do you know? Kind of the script and story is as well, too. It's like a fun movie, but it's not doing anything new. It definitely thinks it's smarter than what it actually is, and I liked that it was different from what I expected out of it, but it's just like, it was just a meh movie, I'd say.
Yeah, I think really it comes down to I was disappointed. I really like Craig Zobel's first film, Compliance, and then we get this, and it was delayed, and we were like kind of excited for it when it came out. Then it was delayed, so obviously your excitement level is gonna go up a little bit. Oh, it's like kind of forbidden, it's that forbidden fruit. It's finally released. And really, it's not the direction that's the issue here. Like, I thought the shots were fine. I thought the movie was fine. I thought the acting's fine. I just felt like the script was, like, the lamest thing ever. All these constant jokes. It's like, imagine watching The Daily Show straight for a week and then writing a script around everything and all the little key words that they said in it. It was literally the lamest thing ever. Like, every joke wasn't really a joke. It was just mentioning words that you had heard in the news, or like taking straight up Daily Show jokes. It's just, I don't know, it was really the script is just, it's weak, and I think the only reason that it sold was the writers that sold it. Like, right. I think the script isn't good. Like, it's a bad script, so I just feel like that's what sold it was the writers. Some of the writers have lost. I can understand why the script would sell. It seems like something that's a hot topic, but really just the delaying of it coming out definitely hurt this film. And especially with the current state of the world right now, what's going on with COVID-19 and the virus that's spreading and the pandemic, this just isn't the right movie for this time. I know you said it's a fun watch, but I really disagree with that statement. I hate to be that guy, but this was not the movie.
Not offended by any means. It's that movie where it's expendable. Like I said, like if you don't like it, that's fine. I just had fun watching on a Friday night. But it's funny though, like what you're saying kind of reminds me of like we're both like cinema lovers and stuff. We just love watching as many movies as we can. We have our favorite filmmakers. I still like to give movies a shot every once in a while, but once the credits roll up, if I hated it and then I see the reason why, like if it's a writer, I'm just like, Max Landis is that guy for me, where I'm just like, oh, no wonder why this movie sucked. And then like for you, I feel like it's Damon Lindelof. Whenever you see his name, you're just like,
However many seasons of Lost, it's just like, I knew he was involved since the beginning. I didn't feel like that was a bad thing, but I think I'm just done. Like, yeah. I know a lot of people love The Leftovers, but I'm not willing to take that plunge. Like, I'm just done. I think I'm just gonna avoid him like the plague. I still don't feel like he's like a bad writer. I just don't. This one wasn't. I don't know. They should have left it shelved, to be honest. Yeah. In my opinion, this thing should have just stayed on a shelf somewhere. You know, sadly, it wasn't shot on film, so it wouldn't have rotted away. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure digital stuff like rots away at some point in time. So.
And that is going to conclude this week's episode. Thanks so much for checking us out. We really appreciate the support. Best way to help us out, though, is by watching The Hunt itself on our Amazon affiliate link in the description box below.
Definitely click that like button, guys, and leave a comment. Let us know what you thought of The Hunt. Especially help us out by subscribing to this channel and clicking that notification bell to get all of our latest updates.
Drive-by movies concluding this week's episode of Fresh Releases. Tune in next week for another new video.